So, Dungeons and Dragons. The universe is vast. It is an infinite place. There are infinite worlds under infinite stars, and in each of those worlds, one of you lives. And at this moment, I would like to know, starting from my left, moving around the table, where you are, where your character is at this moment.
I'm in a tavern, looking for a job. I'm a professional adventurer.
I'm sitting in a tree, playing music.
I am in the wilderness, mid-adventure, doing an errand for someone in my local town.
I am sitting in a set of ruins that have been de-glamored. They no longer look like a fancy castle and are now what they really look like, an old ruined castle. Commiserating with my twin over the people who just screwed us.
Nice. Deep in the forest, in the dark, base layer, surrounded thickly by trees.
How deep?
So deep into it.
I am between worlds, standing in a torii gate, Japanese torii gate.
I'm sitting on a giant cotton ball playing my harp.
All of the air surrounding you is sucked, as if the entire world is collapsing on itself. In an instant, there's nothing but darkness all around you on every side. You can hear nothing, taste nothing, smell nothing. All of your senses have been dampened. It's as if someone has taken tar and wrapped every cell in your body. You can't move, you can't walk, you can't hear. Normally the sound of your heartbeat at least rises when this sort of fear takes over you. In an instant, there is a flash of light so blinding that it overwhelms every sense. You're not sure whether you're dying or exploding or you've fallen into a sun. You can't tell what the world around you is in that instant. And you fall to your knees. And the moment passes, and you begin to hear the echo of your heartbeat. And the world begins to return to your senses. You can hear stone echoing around you in every direction, and the distant echo of voices. As you rise from your knees, you look around you, and you see that centered in the space around you in every direction is a very, very, very large chamber. It runs several stories up into a crystal dome, at the top of which you see an endless library of statues. Just above those statues on placards are books framed in portraits, beneath which 7 symbols lay. At the base of the temple's structure, you arrive here in the central chamber of the room. You see across from you as you open your eyes, in equidistant points around the room, there are 8 pedestals. On each of those pedestals, an unfamiliar person is rising just as you are, crumpled from their knees. What do you do?
Stand and look around.
And you?
Say hello.
And you?
Stand to grab my sword, take a step forward, look around.
We have an armed person who's got their hand on their sword, a very long, curved blade sitting in her hip.
I scream.
We've got a loud scream from a corner. We've got a humble hello, and we've got an armed sword person. You two are standing next to each other. So you're yelling, and you've got a woman next to you who's holding a very large, curved blade. Eric, what are you doing?
I fall back down my hands and knees. I'm searching for my satchel of all my vials and ingredients. I'm not even paying attention.
Panicked rush, no knowledge of the room around you. You are Kupo, small, fluttering creature, about the size of a basketball, is fluttering and darting to and fro around the second pedestal. In the first pedestal where you're standing, you're still smiling humbly at the room. What are you doing?
step into the shadows to observe.
Doubles back, so you've got an area here where there are bookshelves which are sitting back, so the being on the 7th pedestal pulls back sharply into the shadows and for a moment is invisible to anyone in the room. You hear from the edge of the chamber, you hear laughter. A very gentle, very warm, elderly laughter. Stepping forward from the edge of the room, walking down this hallway, a man clad in a long robe and golden edging appears at the edge of the room and is clapping for you, and he has an ear-to-ear grin. And as he walks around the room, starting first at the 6th pedestal and working his way around the room, he eyes each one of you. When he approaches you
Ask who you are. Who are you?
He smiles, the big genial smile that he walked into the room with. And he says, oh, good time. A moment, please. Just a moment. I will explain. You are each, all of you, from a different place. Yes, you came from somewhere else. Do you know each other? Yes. Anyone? No. Yes.
My twin is with me.
Ah, yes, good family is good. And you hear a mumbling coming from behind him, grumbling, an angry, frustrated noise. And he looks as if he's speaking to no one. He looks behind and goes, enough, it's soon, it's your turn. I've been waiting a long time for this. Oh, give me a moment, let me enjoy this. And the grumbling stops. And he circles around and he looks, and he gets down on his knees and he looks and he reaches behind the pedestal and he finds a leather bag, old and bedraggled, and there's contents spilled out. So he begins to pick things up, and as he's handing them to you, he's looking at them and turning them upside down, and something cuts his hand as he hands it to you. And as it does, the item glows golden. And then the cut immediately seals on his hand, and he just waves it away like it's nothing, as if nothing has just happened for him. And he walks around to the base of the pedestal, and he stands here. And he turns, and he spreads his arms wide. And he says, I am therein. I am the 8th. It is a pleasure to meet all of you on this, my last day. When you flip your little furry hand over, he points to the back of your hand, and on the back of your hand, this symbol appears. Keep that safe.
I put it in my small satchel I have.
Who's the next to speak?
What is this your last day of?
The 6th always asks the tough questions, don't they? It is the last day of the 1,000, of course. You know of the 1,000, where you come from, yes? No? Yes, you have the 1,000?
No, what is our 1,000?
On the back of your hand, that symbol appears. Oh, the 1,000 years, the 1,000 days, the 1,000 choices of 1,000 ways. You are the 1,000. You bring the 1,000. You end the 1,000. Today is the last day of my 1,000. 1,000 years I have spent in this world, on this journey, on this adventure, and today is my last. Today is the last of 1,000. It is a celebration. Are you not overjoyed to be the next 1,000? Well, you're not the 1,000 yet, of course. You have to become the 1,000. The 1,000 must be earned. He guides you to the center of a platform. And at the center of a platform, now you are all surrounding him. And he's stepped up onto the dais. And when he places his hand on a round stone in the center of the dais, a humongous, room-sized crystal begins to form out of the center of the room. It's clad on all sides in gold wiring that runs like a thick band, as if it were poured directly out of a font of liquid gold and solidified around the crystal. And when you look at the crystal, it's as if each faceted face forms a new crystal inside, as if it's composed of thousands of tiny crystals that form a perfect unified whole, and it's humming, and the sound resonates down to your bones. You can feel it in every cell of your body. And I have it here.
Can I fly directly towards it?
Yes, the crystal resides at the center of the room, and it's spinning gently in a circle. And he gestures to it like it's nothing. He said, "It all begins and it all ends here." And he points to the center of the pedestal. There is a large, three-faceted clock-like device, and the three dials are moments away from connecting. And he says, I have but a moment. There is but a moment before it begins again. And it always begins again. We will find ourselves at the beginning. Many years ago, he sobers. Many years ago, he walks back across the dais, and a statue, pedestal, just like the ones that are up in the room, is sitting empty on the dais. And in front of it is a small square stand that rises to its left, and there are 6 small statues of what look like heroes, each clad in varying leathers and armors and garb. And one by one, he touches the head of each statue, and he says, "A millennia ago, I came here as one of the 7. That was my role. That was who I was. And now I am the last. I am he who completed the journey of 1,000 at the cost of my friends, at the cost of those I came to love. I am all that remains. And I have governed here. I have lived here. I have helped these people with all that I possessed, learning anew for 1,000 years. And there have been good and there have been bad. But this was the world we built. And now I pass that world to you, and for what is to come, I am incredibly sorry." Who speaks next?
Will we build the world anew?
I cannot answer what will be built, only what is to come. You are adventurers, yes?
Yes.
Aye.
Adventure comes next. That is the truth of the 1,000. But whether that adventure reaps good or bad, that is up to the adventurers. I am not the one who called you. No one calls you. The 7 are simply called. And what forms next is up to their choices, up to the moments they breed into the world. And I cannot say.
This doesn't sound like something that I signed up for.
The 10, the disbeliever, appears on the back of your hand. And what? You would walk from this chamber, given a choice, you would leave? The choice is not yours, regardless. Nor is it mine. I would not give it. Shh, he says, and he looks behind him yet again. Your time will come.
Where are we?
Ah, a question of the wise. On the back of your hand appears that symbol. We are in the world of the 4. The 4 kingdoms, the 4 lights, the 4 elements, the world of the 4. Always divided, yet always one. When I came here, I knew nothing of this place, and now I am afraid I know far too much of this world. You will find it to be a broad and beautiful place. Do not trust what you see, only what you feel here. Because as in all worlds, what is said is rarely the truth. I could give you more if I had more time, but alas, and he looks at the clock, as the hand ticks one more, the final largest hand ticks one more inch over towards the center. Alas, my hours have come to an end. These are the last of my moments, and the first, and potentially the last of yours.
You speak of 7, but we are 8.
That I cannot explain. Under normal circumstances, I have only heard the legend tell of 7. There are 7 guides, 7 wards, and 7 paths, and indeed before me I see 8. And a very differing 8 they are. I cannot explain why 8 were called instead of 7. However, it has always struck me as odd that this, the Temple of the 7, had 8 pedestals, and apparently the 8th has been used, but I have never heard of such a thing. Yes, I know, shut up!
Are we supposed to do this together?
I know that in the 4th era, there was a group who could not agree on a road and split ways, and the 4th era became the 5th, and the 5th was an era of 1. I cannot say as to whether there is any set course for the travels. I know we're almost done. I cannot say whether there is a set road or course to travel for you. That is yours to choose. What I can tell you is that as the years have passed, those I have left behind were the most precious to me. And without them, I would not be standing here, lest any of this would be standing. It is only due to the turning of the clock that anyone is here at all.
Who are you speaking
What is it we're
to?
supposed to do?
Wait. I'm missing a vial. Has anybody seen a small bug in a vial?
No one's been looking.
We've kind of been a little occupied with this. We'll go over here.
Is it
We've been
shiny?
talking.
Is it a shiny vial? Go ahead and roll a perception check. Grab your d20 and roll a d20. If you get anything higher than 13, let me know.
Everyone?
No, just Katie.
Just me.
It's like a little light.
Her name's not Katie.
I mean, we don't know.
We don't know names yet.
That nameless furry creature over there.
Sir, you touched my back.
Yes, on the back of it, yes.
I'm missing.
I have no pockets. I have not much of anything today.
Hang on, give me a second here. I can see stuff. Hopefully. Oh!
20 critical. She finds it, and along with finding it, reveals to the group all magical properties it contains.
It just lights up.
Simply by touching it, yeah.
It looks like it's made out of some sort of light.
Snatch it from her. That's mine. I need that. I put it back there, stuff it back in my bag, go back. Indexing everything that's in my satchel.
The next time that he uses that, whatever its effect is, you perceive it 10 seconds before he does it. Just a note to hold on to.
I have
Okay?
to write that down. I'm not going to remember
I
that.
can remember that for her as well. Okay? When next you use it, she's aware of the action prior to it
You could say
happening.
thank you.
I'm too preoccupied with my stuff. I'm too trying to index everything. This is the stuff for my god. This is the stuff that I need to keep track of.
Who do you keep speaking to?
Roll a perception check.
What is that?
So roll a d20. Take your intelligence modifier if you have one.
The little number under your, so yeah. Under
You're a druid, so I know for a fact you've got a 2.
Yep.
So the 20 is this?
Yeah.
Right?
So it's the
roll
highest
that.
pretty one.
That's the 10.
That's the
You have the 20
is the one that was in my hand.
So roll that and add 2 to your score.
So 20.
Okay, yeah, so no, without a doubt, yeah, you did figure it out. You were the last, which is good. So I'm holding on to 12. You asked your question. You get 8. 8 is the deceiver, which is very appropriate. And on your question, you get the 12. The last symbol appears, and it appears on your hand. I need to save this for later. 2 things happen. One, out of the corner of your eye, you notice that one of the bookshelves is out of place. You can use that later. You can use that knowledge later. You notice it, you don't necessarily say anything about it. So, from beneath the man's cloak, you notice the tail of what looks like a serpent's tongue flittering, but it's too thin to be a serpent's tongue, way too thin to be a serpent's tongue. And as it flutters around and at the edge of his cape turns, this section of the dais specifically, so the holder of 8 and the holder of 12 get a very clear view of the cover of a very large book that is flapping from beneath his cloak. At that moment, you hear a bell begin to chime, and you watch as the final hand of the clock comes into focus. And when it comes into focus, the crystal, each segment of the crystal, begins to light with white light, and it ribbons up like lightning between the shards of the crystals, and it begins to break apart like a city that's falling but up. So the crystals are pulling away from each other and they begin to vibrate. And the sound, which is harmonic, begins to turn to something that's very energetically driven. This guy, and nope. Yep. Good. The man steps forward and he places his hand on the crystal, and he turns to you one last time and he says to you, again, I am so very sorry. If it's possible, save my city. And he turns and he places his hand on the pedestal, and when he does, he turns, steps backwards, and turns to stone. And from behind his cloak, as he's turning to stone, a large book with a face on it settles onto the pedestal, into the face of a smile, its eyes closed, the two turn to stone, and you watch as the stone lifts up from the pedestal and settles into an empty alcove directly above the position of 4, where the other ring of statues were. And the moment it settles in, the crystal shatters into 1,000 pieces and shoots through the stained glass, shattering the ceiling and bringing the glass shards down upon your heads. All light from the room completely disappears, as if the daylight was sucked from the space. The crystal's banding remains, and the clock's smallest hand takes one tick to the right. The symbols on the back of your hands glow with such fervent energy that you can feel the burn of it running up your arms and into your chest, as if it's trying to tear your arm apart. And just as you think the pain is going to blind you beyond reason, it settles back down, and each of you is left staring at the other 7 across an empty room with an empty crystal dais filled with statues and no light. What do you do?
Well, I guess we need to get some crystals.
I'm gonna try to look outside. I'm gonna look for any kind of window.
You're a walker, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Choose direction.
I go towards the.
Okay, so you're walking down. You see at the edge of each section of the room, you see everyone except for Mitch sees a dark room. Remember, you noticed a slight in the bookshelf. So amidst the darkness you're so familiar with already, you notice an even deeper darkness between these bookshelves that none of the others seem to have noticed. You can act on that in a moment. Yes, Siri, I know.
What should we do, Siri?
Just to make you aware,
She's the 8th.
my Rachel has dark vision.
Okay, excellent. Where you were, but you're with him as well.
Oh, yeah.
You are on this side. Roll another perception check. You don't need to. You don't notice the crack, but you notice the noticing if you're done collecting your crap.
Yeah.
If you honestly feel you're done, you're not startling enough to have to
Shut my satchel.
And I have the light vision.
all you notice is the noticing. You don't notice what he saw, only that he saw something.
Yeah, half elf. Okay.
You make a move. I'm assuming with your brother, are you two moving in tandem?
No, just the elf.
We need a word for that, so that's fine. Name the race. So the elf is moving towards a hallway, which, from what you can tell, leads to the west. So you begin walking down the western hallway. The first thing you notice is there is an immutable water in 2 trails, which is running on either side, and you notice that embedded in the walls appear to be stone chalices, which were carved, and fountains running down into the water trains that are leading. They're flowing in one direction down the hallway.
There's no sort of window or
Not
any
yet.
sort of
There's
external
nothing. There's
view.
no form of light.
If I don't see
leaving
any
the
light
room.
coming, I'm heading back towards the
Okay,
middle.
so you walk back
Yeah.
in towards the center. So that's one out of the way. Mitch, what do you do?
There's light coming from the bookshelf. I head to the bookshelf.
You head to the bookshelf. What is your physical action? In what way do you choose to explore the bookshelf?
I pull the bookshelf towards me.
When you pull the bookshelf away, you find there is a hidden room. I love these tiles. You find there is a hidden room sitting behind the bookshelf in the northeast corner. It's roughly, from what you can tell from the darkness, it's almost circular, and it has a set of stairs in it, and you can see something resembling a wood pedestal or dais in the center of the room.
I notify the group of the room find.
In what way?
I shout, I found. Follow my voice.
Okay. Who does? Who chooses to follow?
My other self, the gnome.
So I actually just look up, realizing that we're in this library, and I'm looking around. Do I see anything with dark vision that the normal person wouldn't be able to see?
Yes, in a moment. Everyone else from the group is distracted by the sound of the yell. What does your character's voice sound like? Deep and masculine, boisterous, calm.
Yeah, very middle of the road, not too high.
So a dry, mellow voice calls in an almost studious way
calm.
that there's a room over in the corner. Please follow the sound of his voice. When each of you follow in tandem in, you see a small set of stairs. There is a desk of sorts in the center. When 7 have entered the room, the room lights with torches all the way around, and you find what appears to be a
I don't
small
want to enter
study.
the room. I just want to stand outside.
You hit it, so the room does not light. When you walk in, it's still a room shrouded in darkness. You are standing at the entranceway to the room. You can make out the small frame of a very old hand-carved wooden desk, but not much else in the way of detail.
Well, it seems like this place is made for all of us, so we should probably work together through this.
Agreed.
I want to examine the dais.
Okay, so when you name the physical action to which
We're all in the room.
she's standing at the entrance outside, and he is he's still
Still in the middle.
You're still in the middle. Okay.
Gnome in the room, elf outside of the room near the pedestal.
Okay, so you're still. So not everybody made it in. It's a small room, so it's not surprising.
Three
that
more.
So how many of us are in the room?
And 5.
5.
Five.
Yeah, because there's 8 total.
One of me.
One of
So across, standing outside, 5 in the room
Okay.
at the moment. You are, of course, first in, so you're closest at the moment to the desk.
Examine the desk.
Okay, and you said you also are.
Yeah, did you say that there was like a dais
she
or
said
a
that.
pedestal or
So it's a
something
dais.
like that?
So
Yes.
there's 3 steps, and then the back half of the room is a raised, about 2.5 foot raised dais.
Okay.
On which is settled. All you can see in the gloam, all you can see is that there is a desk of some sort with a padded chair. The closer you get, you notice there's a padded chair there.
Yeah, so I will also be approaching the desk and looking
Okay.
at it, trying to open drawers,
Okay, so
looking for papers.
there is an open drawer with a large gilded letter opener that you discover, but all of the other drawers are locked underneath. So it's got 6 drawers. The second drawer down on the left opens with a bit of a tug, opens, and just a letter opener swivels across and hits the edge. It doesn't look like it's got any magical properties right off the bat. It just looks like a gilded letter opener. It's similar in design to both the room you were just in. It has a bearing on it that looks similar in essence to the crystal, if not well designed. Looks like the craftsmanship may have been a little bit crude.
Does it look like I can break the locks?
Breaking is an option. It's a finesse check, not a strength check. So, are you the only person attempting? Are you the only person attempting to get into it? Are you working with her to try and open the doors?
Absolutely.
Okay. Roll a strength score. So roll a d20 and subtract your strength score from it.
My strength bonus?
No, just your strength score. So whatever your total skill score is, subtract from the
That's
d20
one.
and tell me what's left.
So I'm doing what? Sorry?
So subtract your strength score. The score itself, like your total, the big number. Subtract the big number for your strength from whatever you rolled on the dice.
Oh my gosh.
You're good.
So that would be what, negative 15?
I have 6.
You jam your hand in the drawer attempting to open it. Your hand now hurts. More, because it was just on fire with flaming magic.
Okay.
Good.
I have 6.
Wonderful. You successfully finessed. Anything below 10 successfully finessed the drawer open. Your strength was not overpowering enough. You were able to judge the strength. You break 3 of the 5 remaining locks on the drawer. So all 3 drawers on the left-hand side, the bar snapped and the drawer is now open. And on the right-hand side, it turns out those drawers could have opened all the time. They're just empty. So you have 3 drawers to inspect on the left-hand side.
Inspect the drawers.
Yeah.
Okay, in the top drawer you find a set of what appears to be calfskin paper. It doesn't actually serve a function, it has nothing written on it. It's good paper, it's high quality, it's got a nice finish to it.
Keep the paper.
Done, paper is in your bag, feel free to add it to your item list. 5 sheets of sheepskin paper. Fine sheepskin paper.
Why did you have me roll a perception check again?
We're gonna get back to it.
Where's the item list?
Yeah, we're gonna get back to it.
Calfskin.
Calfskin. In the drawer below, you find a weathered journal, an old black leather journal with faded pages written in a language you can't identify. It's obviously some sort of script, but it appears to be a combination of incredibly bad handwriting and a language you just plain don't recognize. So you're welcome to roll perception checks on the language. Anybody who has a scholar skill that would match language checks, you're welcome to give it a shot.
I have perception.
Perception.
Is anybody walking around with a translation skill or an advanced language skill?
My racial gives me one, right?
What race are you?
Asthma.
Yes, you do have an ancient language skill that I believe is inherent.
Yeah, so I have common and I have celestial.
Okay, so roll. Roll.
Does anyone here know weird languages?
Oh, I'm still out in the middle.
Yeah, you can't even see it. So
I can't see it.
We need to
I
invite the
just
other
yelled,
three.
does anyone here know weird languages?
Yeah.
We need to invite the other 3 people into the room.
Yeah, I go into the room.
Okay.
Your other
We
half.
found a journal.
And you.
I turn around and I'm like, yeah, I think I can read stuff.
So you were first into the room. Does your brother?
I'm still wandering around.
Still hanging out outside.
I'm the last one outside of the
Because you know your brother's in the room, so of course you can. Yes.
So yeah, I said that, but I'm still kind of examining everything.
Okay, so we've got 6 in the room.
Do you want
Heading
to come
towards.
take a look at it?
I can look at it.
Sure.
So I know infernal and something, like Fey language.
Okay, good. Faye is a good choice. Roll your D100, please. Do a set of 10s. I'm looking for something above 75.
Do we want the thingy to roll in with each one?
Oh, sure.
It's right here.
You can just, you put a secondary character for the dice.
Dump all the
What do the
dice.
10s look like?
The diamonds.
So you're gonna put this one and that one? Oh no, this one and
And
the
the one that
other
looks
one
like
is
it.
kind of roundy.
Is this one?
Nope.
No.
This one.
That
That
one
one.
and that
And
one.
this one.
Thank
There you
you.
go. Cool. You're looking for something above, yes, something above 75. And you landed 58.
No!
So no, okay, so it looks familiar, but in a way you can't recognize. It's obviously some derivation of a language some either celestial or infernal has encountered. It's obviously some deific derivation, but translating it is useless to you.
Okay.
Underneath that drawer, so what happens to the book? You found it, it's in your hand. What do you do with it?
Well, we need light, so I'm trying to read it. So keep it. Hold on to it.
Tuck it under your arm, walk from the... Okay, in the third, go ahead.
Is my puffball light up?
Good question.
Is there a... Some Moogles have...
Most Moogles have that ability. That's a fair Moogle ability.
So am I throwing out blue light? It's not very strong.
Phoenix has the fire ability. Can you create
Is that what you ended up with? You're a Phoenix...
half Phoenix, half?
What was the other half race? So you have no control over it. So you have a Phoenix ability, but you have no control over it yet. Okay.
That's a good call.
Yes, pom-poms do light up.
Yeah.
No, you can never hold a torch of any kind. No torch of any kind. You hate man-made light
I
because of
can
it.
hold
How
her.
far does the light...
That would be very funny. You're welcome. You're seeing it flickering into
You
existence.
can use
Why not?
these as
You are
a
welcome to grab her and pull her over to the book.
Then I will. That's what I'll do.
Okay.
Well, then
Once-
he's holding.
If that's okay, if the Moogle gives me her permission.
I'm only 25 pounds. I'm not that heavy.
Okay, so you volunteer for it.
You're what? My apologies.
Okay, so there's a
It's out with you, Moogles.
There's a gentle,
I flip the Moogle upside down to look for its sexuality.
There It's been biology very fast.
Yeah, I help with
Yeah, so he flutters over, leans over, and a very gentle blue light. It's very, very light, the equivalent of less, I'd say 1/3 like a cell phone flashlight, like shining your regular screen from a cell phone over a piece of paper. So it doesn't add a whole lot. The book doesn't react. However, you can see that at the bottom of the drawer that it was in is a false bottom. You can see what looks like a wood panel that could peel up.
Okay, so peel up the false panel.
Underneath is a key that looks surprisingly familiar to the center of the clock at the pedestal back in the main room.
So my elf has dark vision and is still in the room and looking around.
Okay. At the very, very bottom of the desk, unbeknownst to...
Not in that room.
No, you're out in the main chamber. That's right. Both of you.
We're both looking around.
And she made that perception.
Yes, no, hers is coming.
It's coming? Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yours is, if you look up at the statues, you can see that inscribed in each one of the statues appears to be an escalating series of dates leading up to the highest number being at the center of the book of the statue that was just placed. You notice at the edge of your vision that there is a small triangular scrap of light at the end of the nearest hallway, wherever you happen to be at the moment. Where are you in the room at the moment?
So I'm right next to the crystal pedestal.
Okay, so you
Basically
look,
just looking
when you look
around the
around,
base of the bookshelves.
you catch an ever so glimpse, maybe the size of a penny. You look and see what looks to be a stream of dust going through a very small beam of light all the way at the end of a 100-foot corridor. It may have been a trick of your eyes, you're not sure yet, but there is a potential that there is light in the distance down one of the hallways, the hallway to the south.
So take notice, and then I turn towards the room with the dais and shout, "Does somebody need somebody to read something?" Because now I'm refocused on
Yes.
the request.
Come over here and look at this journal.
I make my way, just walking nonchalantly towards the hidden room.
As you pass the corridor to the east, as you pass the corridor to the east, you see a similar glimpse. You are now positive you are seeing an incredibly small beam of light coming from the end of those two corridors. As you pass around, you enter into the room. I still have two people outside. Yes? The elf is still outside.
The last two.
You're in. So the elf is still outside. The second you walk through the room, the torches light up around the inside of the room. The room is now clearly lit.
So I put Mogul back down.
You put Google back down.
God, it's getting dizzy.
As the torches are lighting, I start to say, "I think there's light coming," and then the torches go off and I stop.
Totally.
I hand the book to him to read.
Okay.
So
What did you find in the drawer?
The key.
Okay.
Yeah. But so we need to
Yeah,
leave.
if
we
this
need to
doesn't
leave
work,
the room to
if
go
this
back to
doesn't
the
work,
key.
let's delve into that.
Right. So to translate the book.
okay, yeah. So I read Celestial
Yeah.
for Rachel. Do I roll for that?
You do, yeah, no, I didn't. I still need a roll of 75 or higher. So roll your 10s and see if you can get something higher than 75.
I figure we'll just start there.
Good call. Did we get it?
Oh, you got a 90! Yikes!
Is that bad?
No.
Okay, so the writing is not only in Celestial, it is in Arcane Celestial. It is in the parent tongue of the Celestial language, which narrows down the world from which this man must have come to two. He is either from Celestis, the original world from which Celestials come, or he came from the astral plane where the Celestials dwell. One way or another, the physical realm where the gods live, this man, at some point or another, had to have learned how to speak, read, and write this language in one of those two places, because they're the only places in the entirety of the Megaverse where that language could have been learned. You are not skilled enough to read it, but you can get the gist that it is most certainly a journal and covers a monumentous span of time. When you flip through the pages, you notice that it's somewhere between 900 and 950 years worth of knowledge are recorded in the shorthand. Celestial.
Is it his book, the man that introduced us?
I can't answer that. I can't answer
So
those
I'm
questions.
flipping through it. I say, this looks like a diary. It's definitely in Celestial. I have no idea what it says.
Celestial are hieroglyphs, by the way. Celestial is a language where an individual word contains a memory. So someone who could read it could literally experience the memories that are inherent in the words.
So I recommend you stash the book away until we can figure out how to translate it, and then we take the key that was found in the desk and go towards the clock.
I mean, I don't have much room in my satchel.
I can
Oh, I
hold
can
on to it. Does anyone have room?
I have two parties vying for leadership at the moment. I have a well-clad, dark female figure vying for leadership actions, and I have a well-framed, scholarly, plant-covered fellow who are both expressing leadership tendencies. Is there any friction of any kind happening here between the two of you?
Not at all.
Not at all. You're instantaneously falling into a pattern of logic meets logic meets
I
logic.
think we
Yes.
should work together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very
Take the book.
group focused.
Yeah,
So
place it
unless
back
you give
on
me
desk.
some sort of issue, I'm
Nope.
not
And
going
I
to take any
say,
issue.
my satchel is only for mini faces. And then I just leave the book on the table.
Okay, so he's not rejecting it, but he is placing it back down.
My gnome will walk over and thumb through it, and if no one has any objections, I'll take this.
How big is your bag? How big is the gnome's bag?
Big.
He's
He's a carrying cart.
Oh,
He's also a rucksack, so he's got
So
lots of storage.
he obviously looks like he was doing the peddler merchant thing before he came here.
It's mostly tools and parts.
Okay, fair.
Well, I hate to be kind of a worrywart here, but if that's important, we shouldn't just give it to one specific person. Who's going to be the most trustworthy?
I have 5 pieces of paper I could copy down. That way we have 2 copies of the book.
Well, I mean,
Sure, there's no
Yeah,
after 5 pages. But I simply think I have the most room.
I think for the moment that's fine.
I'm fine with it too.
But until we get out here and can discuss it, I'll hold on to
That
it.
sounds great.
How high is your charisma score?
15.
Oh yeah, you're fine. No, he's obviously a trustworthy fellow. He's got the face of someone.
You're very good natured.
Yeah, no, obviously this is a guy you would trust with your sister after a beer. So,
Yes.
gonna have mine.
Yeah.
No.
So many comments.
I still wonder what my
Yes, no, so your perception check was on the opposite side of the dais, behind you. You see an identical entrance leading to an identical room. However, it neither looks large enough for a fully grown being to get through, this was a segmented bookshelf. This does not appear to be so. It's like there is a hole in the shelf itself where books used to be that have crumbled over time. So it's literally a hole large enough for you to get through and you alone to get through. You decide what you do as we migrate back out. You're only just now aware of the fact that that's now that you've been in this room, and now you're aware that you think that there might be another room there.
I'd like to point out that we still have the key.
You do.
Yeah,
Yes, and that's the goal. The
we're heading
party's
towards
goal is to now leave the room and walk back out
towards
towards
the
the crystal
clock.
dais.
I think I see an opening that I can fit through.
You are a Moogle. Moogles are driven to compulsive behavior. Do you inform the party, or do you zip across the room and just go pop into a
Yeah,
hole?
just go through.
We lost a
See
Moogle.
her going that way and follow.
Good, excellent. Okay, you have a nature perception score, yes? Yes, good. Okay, so you've got a buddy following behind you. She's not saying anything at the moment, but she is directly behind you.
I am actively trying to watch out for everyone just to keep, like, it's like a field view. I want to
Yes.
know where everyone is and if they're
Do
okay.
you have a darkness vision thing?
I have low light vision.
Okay, good. So everyone can see in the damn dark. No darkness for you people. No caves.
Only blinding light.
As far as I'm concerned, all we do is go to deserts. You're going to the sun next.
Oh, I should mention that because of my racial, I'm colorblind in darkness.
Oh,
I can only see shades of gray.
interesting. Can you see expanded shades of gray?
It just, in the book, it just says
That's
I see shades of
unfortunate for you.
Oh no, because of the crystal.
That's really unfortunate for you. You're gonna need help from someone later. That's an unfortunate weakness.
But it was because
No, good call. I like it when people have weaknesses. It opens up for more story.
I see what.
I can only see 60 feet in front of me.
Okay, so you're limited in dark spaces. That's okay. The group as a whole seems to have balanced that out and share some of that.
the light, so technically in the light really close up, I can see.
You would have better reaction to. And color is not the only way to identify a crystal, and you have to roll for your crystal checks anyway. So I think you're good.
There were still 2 drawers that were locked on the desk that in the room that we're in.
There were, but the locks broke. The bar that opens them broke. Did anybody grab the letter opener?
Yeah.
You did grab it. No, I mentioned it. I just wasn't sure if anyone had said. So you found it. You grabbed it.
Yeah,
It's
I
in your
grabbed it because
possession.
I thought that maybe I was going to use it to pry those locks open, but he wound up being the one to. Yeah, it was in my hand.
What's your dexterity score?
13.
Okay, so it's below 15. Would you roll a 20 for me? No, roll a 10. I mean, let's simplify.
50.
Roll another, please.
She disappeared.
Okay. When placing it into your pocket, you noticed a shimmering liquid on the blade itself. You did not cut yourself with it. You simply noticed that there is some sort of residue on the blade itself. You're very, very lucky. That was very close. That was 10 points away. You just got a 2% save.
And you didn't taste it.
You noticed it. It's in your possession. I would wonder what someone who has a formal training in complex blade work would do with a blade they notice has a mysterious residue on it that they are unsure of, how they would store such a blade.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it very carefully, and I'm going.
Any mention of any kind here, fellows, or is this
Yes.
just a...
Yeah, I'm going to be like, hey, if anyone knows anything about poisons or substances that people would put on knives, this thing is coated in something, so be careful.
Did anybody choose alchemy in their backstory? We do not have an alchemist in the party. That is perfectly fine. Keep an eye, just stick it in the back of your
Yeah,
head that that's a
so-
question for later.
I wrapped
Don't
it
poke
in
yourself.
whatever I could find. If
not
there's
important.
some spare cloth
Specifically
around, or if I have like a spare nightshirt or whatever,
I have.
I'm gonna wrap it up in something.
You're a knight, use your
We
kerchief.
just use
Right, you know,
Do you have the
there's a
reagents for
something.
this
I have
already? I know you have the
Well,
hair,
hair because of myself.
but not the other reagent. So
Well, because it's
Yeah.
the pearl.
Just-
Well, I can ask if anyone.
Just a tidbit.
no, it would have to be equipment that came in with
Just,
his
just a
backstory.
tidbit real quick. At 10:30, I think we have to go.
Yeah, what
She
time
has
is
to
it?
work tomorrow. It's 10:10.
Okay, yeah, no, we're almost done. I only planned for
Just
half an
wanted to
hour of
throw that
story.
out there.
So you've got 2 more choices to make and 1 more thing to do, and we're done. So we'll
We
call
still
it.
have to use the key. So.
Yes, no, so you have the key, you're marching forward, a Moogle just darted across the room, over your shoulder, towards a bookshelf, and disappeared into a bookshelf.
We're a group. Follow the Moogle.
You are in out behind.
How big is the hole?
Approximately the size of 3 mid-sized tomes in a bookshelf. I'd give it about 10 square inches. And right, it's got
my head's too big.
sharp bits.
I'm close. 2'10", pretty narrow. So
You're the first to reach before you get there.
I accept so.
No, she got through the hole. He got through the hole, and you are the first to arrive with the party in tow. You are the first. I'm assuming you are at the end of the line because you are watching everyone.
with me, because I'm done putting away a book
Okay,
and
sure.
carrying a
So
cart.
you're
I'm like, yeah,
hobbling
I'm
out, and she's got your back shoulder.
As I'm walking, I'm like pointing to the other corners, like, I think I see light.
Okay.
From the
Well,
corner.
if the Moogle's the only one that can fit through the hole, what does the Moogle see?
The Moogle is in a dark room
It's
surrounded
got a
by
light up
darkness,
pom-pom.
but has this much range. So it's in a dark room
So-
with a pom pom.
I search the room. I go through like my little hands, like trying to touch things.
What's your movement?
30 feet.
Don't you have a darkness modifier? Or was it a battle modifier?
Oh
movement.
no, for movement that was a combat when there's
Combat
treasure.
modifier. When treasure is present, she freaks out.
So
moves
I can
faster.
see in dim light within 60 feet as if we're bright light, and darkness as if we're dim light.
Okay, so you can see
Can see
70 with the
shades of
light
gray.
streaming through, assuming no one stuck their head in the
Shades of
hole.
gray.
I didn't stick my head in the hole. I just moved.
Cool, so if there's enough light streaming through from the chamber beyond, which is already dim, I'm going to cut that in half. The room is about 15 square feet. You can see the majority of it. It looks like a storage room. There are an assemblage of crates, an open old bookshelf that appears to be completely empty, and a small small box sitting in the corner that is not ornate but appears to be carved of a small dark walnut. It's a hard dark wood.
I go for the box.
Okay. You pick up the box. It weighs literally absolutely nothing. The box weighs nothing.
My
The
carrying weight is awful.
Yeah, the weight of a feather. So you're able to pick it up, but it takes up both of your hands. So it's also slightly wider than the hole you just came in through. So it's long and slender, but wide.
I open the box.
It won't open. You attempt to open. It appears to have some sort of puzzle mechanism as you attempt to pull and slide. The box itself won't open.
Does it have a key code?
No, it is sealed on all sides.
But it has a puzzle mechanism as
You can feel that there's some sort of tongue and groove mechanism in play. It's obviously been carved and it obviously has no glue. The pieces just fit together so
Can I try
tightly you
to,
can't.
twist it with my little
Sure,
hands?
you move it around, you twist it, you smack it a couple times on the wall, and
Damn it.
all you hear is
How's everything going in there?
I found a box. I can't open it, and it's too big for me to take out.
Can I widen the hole?
you don't need to. She's a Moogle and didn't think to turn it sideways.
Oh, honey, turn it sideways. And come on out.
And yeah, it fits. Here,
She
someone grab
feeds
it.
the box out, and because you're the one who's standing closest to the hole looking in, it's handed directly to you, and the moment it touches your hand, it burns the skin on your hand, and you
I drop
You
it.
drop the box, and again, the box hits the ground, and it rattles.
Are you okay? Can I use a detect? Yeah.
There are no signs on her hand of burns of any kind.
That's a good
It's as if a similar fire to the one that empowered the symbols earlier in your hand sparked again. That same energy sparked from the symbol. And when you look down, the symbol not only on your hand, but on your hand as well,
Is
are
it burning
both
me?
glowing. They're ambiently
it
glowing,
did-
like
it
little
didn't
white
burn.
flames are flickering out, but there's no more pain.
Say it louder.
Burn.
It didn't burn the Moogle.
Say it louder.
She has a
Detecting magic.
Nice.
Nice.
You don't even need to roll. You use your detect magic skill and immediately notice 4 sources in each cardinal direction of minor magic. You notice a blinding force of magic coming from the box that's currently sitting on the floor, and you visibly notice an emanating source of magic from each of the people standing in the room, with one unique difference. The brothers, the 2 gentlemen who claim to be brothers, are
Elf and the gnome.
there is a core of magic that is spaced between the 2 of them with a band that connects the 2 of them. So they are glowing on an outer rim, but the source of power, unlike the rest of you where it's coming from your left hand, it seems to be evenly as you're watching them walk away from each other. It stays exactly in the middle between the 2 of them at all times. And it's overwhelming to your senses and the spell fails. Is that a once per day? Or is that a...
One action up to 10 minutes.
Oh, beautiful. So yes, it fails this time. Your 10 minutes has been broken. No more magic can be sensed because you were overwhelmed. It consumes one of your spell actions for the day. I believe you have 3 at level 1. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. We can fix that later. That's what we're reading
First
into.
level detect magic is a first
Just
level
put it
spell.
to-
It's a level 1. I believe you
Yes,
get the
3
same
slots.
number as you have 3 spell slots at level 1
Yeah.
for level 1 spells. If it had been a level 2, that would be 2 level 1 credits and a level 1.
Because
two-
then we
two
have to
level
rest
ones
and
at a
then
level.
we-
Yeah. Yes, and then you get it back as you sleep. So.
Is there something in your satchel? There's magic. There's a magical presence.
Do
in
you
the
have
box.
anything with
Is there
you,
anything?
or any inherent skills that would allow you to pick up a seemingly
I'm not even
dangerous
paying
magic?
attention.
You're even.
I'm still high
Skill off.
So I get over with my card.
Did you share this information with us?
Oh, that's
Is
right.
that it?
You experienced it. Yes, you just had that flash of inspiration. Did you tell anybody?
No.
No, you
just
keep
asked.
that information to yourself.
I mean, I could. No, I do tell them.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
In what way? Assuming we can do the 3-minute later explanation. Did you explain that to the party?
Yeah.
Okay, so everything I just described, she explained in
Yeah.
similar wording to the party about the nature of the vision on each. What next?
Well, I'm gonna wheel my big card over and pull out a thick, heavy set of gloves.
Okay, work gloves, leather work gloves.
Real thick.
What's your carrying capacity?
Low,
Low. Okay,
Well,
so
I
you
carry gloves.
okay.
but they're me-sized.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go try and pick up the box with gloves on.
Okay. You pick up the box with gloves on.
Cool.
It does nothing to you. It appears to just be an ornate walnut box with some sort of tongue and groove.
Try something on the box.
Yes,
I touched it with the hand with the mark, right?
yes.
Can I touch it with this hand?
She does it, nothing happens. When touched with a hand that doesn't contain the mark, nothing happens.
Smash the box.
Put it back down. Step away. Does it have, I investigated, does it have obvious mechanisms?
Nothing obvious beyond the fact that, again, it's a tongue and groove mechanism. So,
Okay.
Can we break the box?
Is
Give it
that,
a shot.
I mean, I have
Oh, I don't know about
I have
that.
a lot of
Breaking
this
magic items can
is
be pretty
typically a
horrifying.
real bad idea.
Okay.
are you are of magical descent? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This would be inherent knowledge to you, to the knowledge of the logic of shattering a magical object.
I was
Now,
last in my class.
Podunk here may not be the best at such logic.
So I'm going back over to the cart and I'm pulling out a set of tools. Their tongue and
Standard
groove.
work tools,
Standard.
level 1, generic, purchased from a
Pretty
merchant
much,
work tools. Okay.
Yeah, like for working on things with screws and springs, etc. And yeah, we're gonna see if I can't apply any of the tongues and grooves to get open.
The box appears to be very, 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 very old. When you turn it and you push it and you pull it and you go through it, and when Brandon figures out which side is the actual puzzle side on the damn box, I'm gonna be a real boy. It opens. The edge of the box slides open.
All right, well, with my gloves, I'm gonna slowly like. Careful now.
Lean away.
Let it burn you.
Rocks.
It's in there.
Curiously shaped.
Rocks? Oh. Can I see?
Pass them
Which
along.
hand?
The one with the mark.
Okay. The cards I handed you guys earlier. Pull them out, please.
0.
Who has the square?
He handed me the 3.
The Moogle grabs the stone with her crested hand, which glows flaming bright red, and the object flings out of her hand and into yours.
I'm not gonna.
You are in
Yeah,
agonizing
thanks.
pain and are currently rolling around on the ground. Yeah. You, on the other hand, the moment the moment that the square object touches your hand, your crest goes from the dwindling white flames to a solid gold and inscribes the symbol, which matches the symbol both on the dice and on your card, into the back of your hand in gold ribbing. The dice then goes innate. The square is now, the writing is now of the same material as the back of your hand, and neither appear to be doing anything. They've gone completely inert.
No more burning.
And we're burning.
Okay, so look at your hands
Put this
and
back
try to
down.
find the rock that belongs to your hand.
Yeah. Only the gloves just protected you from a similar scenario. It's because you were
I realized as soon as she
Yeah.
grabbed it, I was like,
That's a slow back away moment.
Yep.
And I'm too distracted by.
I already have mine, so maybe
Give it a shot.
I'll be okay.
Okay, give it a
I'm
shot.
gonna grab one.
Okay, you grab one, and the edges of your symbol. Which one do you grab? Grab one. Okay, the edges of the symbol on your hand glow red, but there's no noticeable pain. However, your hand is resonating. It's shaking violently, and your hand is pulling towards who has nope.
No? Gigantic.
Nope.
No?
Yes.
Oh, was it me?
Yeah. Pulls towards.
I'm like right.
Yeah, no, you're not. Yeah, you're
I'm gonna
not.
walk up to
But
you.
the moment that your hand is pulling towards, you feel it. You feel the pull on your hand, and it's enough to distract you from being distracted.
Distract you from being distracted.
And the same thing happens the moment that the object touches your hand. The symbol turns into a gold ornate, settles into your skin, and the die appears to become cold. It no longer reacts to your touch. It's still solid, it's still normal, it's just not emanating any form of active pulsing anything.
Did I miss something? What's happening?
Just hold on to that for a second. Where does this one go?
I need somebody who's got, that's the 10.
X.
Yes, X. Again, symbol solidifies, object goes inert.
I'm just gonna keep handing them out.
12.
That is the 12, indeed.
20.
20.
And the 20. An interesting thing happens when you pick it up with the glove. It shoots out of your hand and into your brother's hand, and then the moment that the symbol turns on his hand, only half of the symbol materializes. The other half remains white flame, and then the dice shoots back into your hand again. But you're still wearing gloves.
Right.
So,
I'm gonna take it off to see if I have a symbol.
okay. You take it off, it's still in the wrong hand though, so your symbol hasn't changed, it's still white flame.
I put it back in
He
the
put
right
it back in the other hand, the opposite side of the symbol turns into the gold. It remains white flame, but both dim down and leaves a sort of gray residue for the other half of the symbol. So each of you has half gold and this sort of ashy gray that looks like it could have been the other half of the symbol. Unlike the others, yours disappears. Your die just poofs out of nothingness.
From ashy to classy.
It is, yeah. Okay.
After I've not.
You now each possess that for the remainder of out of character. For the remainder of the campaign, you and your brother can summon that when it's needed. Either one of you can summon it at will. It will take an active will. There is no dice roll involved.
And not
but
all.
only one of you can possess the die at any one moment. You now possess this die for the remainder of the game. When we come and sit at the table, please let that be something you fetch from the box at the beginning of each session. This is yours for the remainder of time. What's up?
Should we? Okay.
Let's keep them together.
I would recommend keeping them in the case just because I would have to buy a brand new set if one got lost.
Would be very
No,
simple.
the cards, please hang on to those yourself. If you need to return them to me for safekeeping, so be
he's
it.
gonna put it in his folder.
Yeah, but otherwise it's yours. You know the symbol. The symbol's been met. It'll be used for reference later on, but other than that, the knowledge is there. Okay, the moment the last of the dice has gone inert, which I believe was the 0, you are no longer in pain. The symbol has settled down in your hand once more, and it's as if the pain was never there. At the center of the pedestal, the symbol where that you recognized earlier that looks like a small crystal with an odd jagged key shape flares to life with a blue light, and the ghost of what looks like the crystal fills the inside of the metal shape that once housed all the crystal shards. The key gets incredibly hot. It gets very hot very quickly. You still have it, correct? It's in your possession. You're
Oh,
holding the
sorry.
key.
It's got the retired key. The key is hot. Try to put it in the keyhole quick before it burns me.
The crystal shape folds in on itself like a puzzle box and goes back into the dais. And when it settles down, the dais folds in. You're looking at a flat diamond pedestal at the bottom that turns up on its side, stands straight up, and in the center is a large book.
With a magnet.
Oh, it's me.
What the hell? Who are you people?
Who are you?
Who am I? Who are you?
My name is Fela. I'm one of the 1,000.
Yeah, apparently we're one of the 1,000.
We've been called. That's all we know.
It's been 1,000 years.
Yes.
I guess so.
Are you hungry?
I think it's a book.
That was very
Fair question.
yeah.
When you've been asleep for 1,000 years,
Yeah,
you're a little bit hungry.
I could have a word or two. Do you have any?
I'm not holding.
That one guy earlier handed out of words.
The book lifts off the dais and flies over to the Moogle. What do you mean?
I don't remember his name. I was kind of distracted by everything that was going on, but there was this old guy who was telling us that we were all from different worlds and, you know, we were all here
Zooms
together.
around, is looking at all of your faces,
He
assessing
had
whether or
a book
not.
too.
Yeah.
Do you look like me?
It looked like that one up there.
He looks up. Oh, and he flips himself over. The book opens up and he flips himself over and he reveals a page that looks like this. So in it, there's a bunch of script, and again, in a language you don't recognize, but it's much more mundane than the other. Looks kind of like an encyclopedia entry, to be honest. Flips it over, open, and says, "We're in Oh, Varen. 1,000 years come and gone. He sighs. Did... Sorry, it's new, so it's hard to break in. Did he leave the map?
We've got a tome, looks like his journal, but no map.
May I have that, please?
Yes.
I'd say so. You seem like you need it.
I'll give it to you in your book.
Floats over in front of his
I
face.
don't know if we should just hand it over. We don't even know what this is.
And right before it gets there, all of the words seem to strip out in golden, and he just opens his mouth and the words fly inside. Who is gonna act as leader for the time being?
Great.
Me.
Yes, for the purpose of action. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, you hold the tome. This and this are the same thing, okay? So as long as you have this, it's the representation of him. Whoever's physically holding him has the book with them at any given time. The very first page in the book is the life and experiences chronicled in the journals of the Emperor of 1,000, number 23, King Varen the 14th. It's the first page in the book. It contains that page when read by someone who can account for celestial, or when accounted for by this being, can recount any event in the journal of the Emperor Varen.
So the book can read it.
The book is it now, it just ate it. So the first page in this book, it just flipped itself over, and the first page is now a complete entry.
So even if you can't read it, if it wants you to know what it says, it can tell you.
It could convey that,
Yeah.
specifically that information.
Right.
So the book settles down, takes a deep breath, turns, looks and goes, "You have a secret! What's your secret?"
Can't tell you that.
Stubborn as always. You new adventurers are always so stubborn. Why did I have to get a stubborn lot? You're fuzzy. Do you have a secret?
No, I'm exactly as I.
Is it Mr. Book?
What's
Do
your
you
name?
think I could get a sample of whatever it is that you are?
Get you hooked.
Roll a d20. You said you asked him what your name is?
What his name was again.
My name is Grimustar. You can call me Grim.
Nice to meet you, Grim. I'm Mochi Mug.
Mochi Mug. I like your name. It's got a lot of syllables. I like syllables.
Roll a 12.
Not a symbol, but I'll give you a syllable.
Cord the vial. Put it back in my satchel.
No sense of humor. Okay, so the book just begins humming to itself and looking around the room as if it's very familiar with the space. And then it settles back down on the pedestal and it begins to doze. The book begins to doze and it closes its eyes and becomes completely unresponsive.
Not to be rude, but
We're finishing.
Yeah,
This is
okay.
it. I just had one more question for the party. So.
okay.
So it settles back down on the dais and becomes unresponsive.
Grim, I'm here.
What do you do?
Well, it's nice to meet you all. What are your names?
I'm Veladate.
I'm Sunny Toolsman.
Talus, Black Widow.
Mochi Mug. Spell sword.
Nice to meet you, Mochi Mug.
My Japanese, so Akari.
I don't know.
I don't know. What language is that? You choose not to. You stand silent during the name exchange. Fair.
I'm Zalston Felzavir, and this is my twin brother Theat.
Nice to meet you.
Now,
Twin?
you don't need a perception roll to notice the fact that one of them is this big, and one of them is this big.
Hey,
One of them is an
it could
elf,
be fraternal.
and one of them is not an elf. One of them has dark skin, one has light skin, one is obviously very intelligent and currently staring at his shoes, and the other one is just kind of gleaming at you guys like it's the best thing ever.
The elf is the dumb one.
That doesn't bode well.
So obviously these two are in their minds, they are obviously twins. They are obviously bound by some sort of magic,
And
but they are
the
most
universe
certainly
thinks they're twins, so who am I to
no.
argue?
They are not. They are obviously not twins, but they are. Yeah, you'll figure it out later.
Feel free to point it out to us.
Did you love man?
Yeah, not up to me. The book went quiet. So,
We should take him with us wherever we go. He obviously knows a lot.
Agreed.
Could he survive outside of this room, though?
I mean, I'm going to find out.
Well, I guess we could ask him.
He's sleeping, right?
More importantly, is there a way out of here?
I guess the bigger question is, do we risk the knowledge he just consumed to test a theory?
How can you know the value of something you don't know yourself?
And that's my point. Why risk it? I mean, we know where he's at. I don't think he's going to be going anywhere anytime soon.
I tend to agree.
True.
Why risk ruining the magical item when we know where it is for the moment?
Do we know this place is safe?
I don't
He
think we know
seems
where we are.
familiar with it. He clearly lives here.
He's probably been here more than an age.
Yeah, I mean, if he was here for 1,000 years, he'll probably be safe for 1,000 more. Let's try to find our way out of here. Maybe by the time we have, he'll have woken up and we can talk to it some more.
So we have one person who is distracted but aware of a potential for light. Light means exit. And then we have 4 dark corridors. We know there are 4 exits to the north, south, east, and west. Who does what?
You said you saw some light earlier, right?
Did you say?
Yes, you did.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been announced.
Yeah, I noticed these sort of lights coming from, is that north?
No, north.
I have
So
paper.
is it-
Should we draw a map so we know how to get back to this book?
Yes, by all means.
That's a great idea.
That is a good idea.
So, for the sake of argument, what I'm going to do is I'm going to photograph the
Puts it on
table.
the paper.
So you guys have it. You have the.
So then, yeah, I just say, I saw beams of light coming from the east and south corridors. I think we should investigate those.
I think that's wise. Anyone have a strong feeling about east or south?
Should we split up?
No.
Let's stay together for the moment. I don't know what's here, and I don't know what your capabilities are, but I'm sure that I can protect you.
At least until we know more.
Really important question for everybody. Has anybody seen any bugs or creatures anywhere that I can not steal, but keep track of?
Other than the book?
I'll do a perception check to see if there are any bugs or creatures around the tower that I can notice.
Okay, go ahead and roll a 20.
Okay. Thank you, baby. 4. I didn't do it.
There's evidence that there were once bugs. You see something resembling a several chambered body that's like a potato bug, but in segments. But they're desiccated. They're dead a long.
So I get on my hands and knees and I start scurrying, just looking, seeing if I can find anything.
Okay.
It's part of my duties to my patron to collect as many faces as possible as creatures, bugs.
Okay. If you choose to collect something from a skeletal, you could collect a skeletal.
It has to be alive.
Then yeah, no, you fail. There is nothing.
I'm just,
living.
everyone's looking at me on my hands and knees basically just like,
Okay.
I think
Well,
we should go
not right now. You think south?
Same way.
Sure.
I follow you guys.
South it is.
it's fine.
Can I, before we leave, check for the crystals that shattered and fell?
All you find is going to be little pieces of glass. You'll find micro pieces of the glass from above. There's nothing resembling a crystal still left in the tower.
Okay. That's why I just asked. Okay. So.
Okay, so as you head south, I'm assuming you're all together. Did everyone go? Everyone's marched. We have a whole party who's together. You're in the very, very back. The second you cross, so it's enter in, I'm assuming back and back. Mitch, I'm assuming your character is still leading.
I'm in the front because I have the light.
Oh,
As in, like, physically in the lead.
sure.
Yeah, why don't you go to the front?
So
I'll pick up
you
the
two are
rear.
at the front. She's hovering above your shoulder.
like
These two
college.
are in the back. You guys are in the middle. The second that your feet cross the entranceway to the southern tower, similar torches light as in the room, and the whole line of torches go about 50 yards. down in front of you. You can see no insanely ornate markings. You see water similar to what you saw in the other, but it's now well lit. The only difference being what you intuited to be a cup in the other shows as a staff. There is a stave carved into the wall that the water is pouring down from as you reach the end of the room. Towards the end of the hallway, you see a door similarly locked to the lock that was on the crystal back in the main chamber.
Do we still have the key?
No, the key was taken by the dais.
That's right.
All right. Let's examine the lock.
Okay, so the lock appears to have a metal folded piece on it. It has a hole for 7 slots in a circle around it. There are 7 geometric holes around it, and sitting at the very, very top there is a line that looks like a rectangle indentation that's about 14 inches long and about 2 inches high.
Pull out the dice. Place it right in the one that looks like a pyramid.
A similar gold ring appears of light the moment that the die enters the shape. From which brother?
The gnome.
Okay, so he reaches his hand, he tries to put it in, the dice materializes in front of him and slides of its own accord into the hole, and the hole lights.
I do the same.
Good call. Yeah.
Moogle, same, die, lights.
What shape is the Moogle's die?
The Moogle is holding it's a bottom heavy diamond, so it's a 10-sided die he's got.
Oh.
He's got a 10-sided die. The only difference is his crest was 0 instead of 10.
10, makes sense.
I'll put my dice.
Okay, raise the symbol, dice is pulled and placed into...
Explain that rectangle thing.
It's the box.
Yeah.
He hands the box to his brother and just slots it in.
The box explodes into about 500 small wooden shards, one of which hits the elf in the eye, slicing his left eyebrow open. It's a minor wound, but enough to draw blood.
So is
10
it the book?
stars.
What's up?
Is it the book?
I don't know. I'm just a dungeon master.
Well,
Let's
keep putting the die in and see what happens to the door. If we need something else, we'll figure it out then. Everyone put their die in?
No.
Okay.
I'm just sitting looking at it. Very cautious of losing the things that we have found. But I begrudgingly stick it into the slot.
Okay.
After taking a minute to contemplate.
Almost as if the lock can sense your hesitation, the light takes a moment to form, flickers for a moment, then accepts the dice.
I'll put mine in too.
With a mild hesitation, the die slowly slides into place. The light is quick to fire back, and unlike the others, when you place the die in, the fire almost leaps onto your skin and for a moment climbs up your arm before turning orange and disappearing into your skin.
No one's concerned as to what that was.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Anybody else see that?
So when each of you place the dies into the receptacle, it lit gold similar to the color around the rings on your hand. In this instance, when she placed her die in, she did it slowly. Similar to the white flame that originally emerged from your hand, white flame crept down the dice, down her fingers, hit about here on her arm, turned a mild orange, and then faded into the skin, and the light disappeared. Very quick, almost imperceptible to anyone who wasn't looking directly at her and looking for magic.
I just stare at her.
Yeah, you would be aware that something you probably didn't see.
Is that
There would be
everyone?
an awareness.
Oh no, I haven't put my die in yet.
Any desire to do so?
Well, I want to know what happened to her arm, so.
Did you see it? You were.
Oh, I'm
you were
sure
aware
she
of
saw it, right?
Right, but she would have had to said something, or you would have had to notice it in order to have a reaction to what was going on there.
Okay, I'll put my die in.
Okay. The ring around the door glows, and the slot above the door, the rectangle slot, lights, and then nothing happens.
It's the book.
Does it look like the book would fit in there?
Ask the Moogle. He's very good at, fitting wrong things in direction. So.
I would just go back to.
Can we grab
Okay.
the
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys just left it on the base back
We
in the
have it with us.
So
We
you
decided to
grabbed it,
leave
but
it,
it's
yeah.
still sitting right on the pedestal where you left it, snoring loudly.
we as a group or one of us will have to.
Someone want to go back and grab the book?
I'm already headed
You just
back.
ran back into that whole thing again?
Perfect.
Okay, cool. So you grab it, you pick it up, nothing happens, you're just holding it, and it's heavy, but not in a slow way, just in a heavy way. It's a heavy book. So you've got a heavy book in your arms, and you...
I take it back to the group.
Okay, so she's standing in front of you with the book in her arms, in front of you.
Now does it look like the book will fit in?
Yes, when you get the book close enough to look at the geometric shape, it looks like if you were to slide it top first, that the face was pointing up, that the book would slide into the slot.
In we go.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Somebody help me lift it up. 'cause
Yes, I'll
It's
I'll-
high, it's
I'll
about
grab
6.5 feet in the air.
I'll
so-
take it from her and place it in there.
Okay, so the book slowly slides in, the door lights, the entirety of the hallway begins to shake and dust begins to fall down on everyone around you. The door, much like the crystal, breaks into segments and seems to roll into the wall, revealing a beautiful cloud-filled sky that sits out at the edge of the world. Too many toys. Around you in every direction is a sea of clouds. When you look down over the edge of the gigantic pedestal on which you find yourself, you see that the edge is caged in a very translucent crystal glass, very similar to what had been in the chamber when you first got there. When you look over the edge, you can see the faint outline of what looks to be a vast civilization clad in blue and white. All these towers and flags seem to flutter in and out as the clouds pass in waves beneath you. It must be thousands of feet down to the base. Similar to the chamber in which you just came, you find 8 marked pedestals, each with a step leading up to them. But unlike the pedestals that were in the central room, these are joined by a band in between. As you approach the center of them one by one, they flare to life at the edge of the platform. What do you do?
I examine the pedestals.
They appear to be as ancient as the rest of the structure.
I step on one of them.
The moment you do, your feet plant in and refuse to move. You can't walk off of the pedestal again, and yet you know there's no fear in that choice. It's as if you and the pedestal are one connected item, as if you are the key to a lock. And silence overtakes you. You hear nothing of the world around or any perceptions of the people around you. You simply are at peace. What do you do?
As I walk towards the pedestal, I turn around and examine the hole we walked out of, and then backwards step onto the pedestal.
When you step backwards onto the pedestal, in your mind, the glimpse of a giant raven laughing in the distance is seen, and a sea of 1,000 faces you have never seen before appears before you in a blinding circle, settling on one smiling face, your own. What do you do?
I'm going to grab my brother's tiny little hand and walk onto the pedestal together with a reassuring nod.
When the pedestal of the 7th and the pedestal of the 8th are touched at the same time, a band of light connects the two of them, visible for the first time since you arrived. And between them, the bond they share can easily be seen. And unlike the others, who have already stepped onto the pedestal, who seem to be lost in a dream, these two see only each other. What do you do?
Do they look okay?
They look fine. Distracted, somehow distant, as if the glass that the pedestal is made of has somehow also become their skin. There's a shimmer to them, an expectancy of what's to come about them. They don't appear to be in any danger, and upon closer inspection, it looks as if they could walk off if they really wanted to, but there's no mechanism to do so.
Okay. Well, I guess they've already decided for us. How are you feeling? We'll stick together?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get up on mine.
Simultaneously, the three remaining step onto. Wait, what are you doing?
I haven't stepped on yet. I'm sort of waiting to protect everyone.
Okay, so
I'm
you're
impulsively waiting
you're
instead of
hanging
running.
back.
I'm deciding to hang
So
back.
I won't go until everyone is going to go.
So the two of you have stepped on. You are holding
still
back
waiting.
because you're staring at it, and you are waiting for the Moogle to go. When you step on,
No, I haven't stepped on it.
Oh, okay.
a vision of a tower of leaves that spirals as high as the sky fills your mind, and in the center of it, there is a being of pure light and warmth and childish glee that simply stares into you as you stare into it, and it brings you a sense of calm that you've only felt one time before, and only as a very young student in the wood. You find yourself surrounded on all sides by a crystal flame. It neither lives nor dies, it simply exists. And in that cradle of flame, for the first time in your life, you see only the living fire and not the fragile mortal shell. And it brings you a breath of warmth that causes you to ground and hold fast.
What do you think?
Well, gone this far, I guess I'll go.
The Moogle doesn't technically step onto the pad. The Moogle flutters over the pad, and a light shoots up underneath the Moogle. And when the Moogle looks down, all it sees underneath is a vista of all of the Moogles that it left behind. It sees the family, the tribe that it left behind, like a floating series of discs made of a wealth of gold and treasure floating beneath. And as the sword-clad warrior steps onto the first and final platform, in her mind, she hears the laughter of a father she knew so well, and the echo of the words, "Komenasai, my daughter, Komenasai." The glass surrounding each of you shatters, and in a flutter of sparks of crystal, you feel yourself floating down into those clouds toward the city below. And the only knowledge you have is the warmth of knowing that what is to come was what was meant to come. And that's where we'll end for this week. That's where we end our first session.
Thank you.
You're welcome.